Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Wavy Baller Hub. Today we are going to be talking about the United States men's national team facing the Netherlands this Saturday. Big game. Got out of the group stages, which was what everybody wanted us to do. We've done that. Now we're playing with house money, and it's going to be an exciting game. I can't wait to break it down for you guys today. If you're watching for the first time, make sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Follow the movement. If you're watching this later on, make sure to share this with your friends, and let's have some fun, man. Let's have some fun and talk about the USA. I got a great guest with me, one of the smartest football minds I know. I'm going to bring in my guy, Andy, into the fold. What's good, bro?
What's up, Temi?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. We made it through, man. We made it through. We got out of the group stage. And it was a tough one. It was a very, very grinded out type of 3 games that we had. But let's talk about it real quick, man. What were your thoughts on the group stage? Just your overall feelings, how you thought about all 3 games. What were you thinking, man?
I mean, it was way more entertaining and competitive than I thought it was going to be. And I don't know if that's just bias as I expected USA to make it out, but Wales didn't roll over. Iran definitely didn't roll over. Like, it was very much like anyone's group, even though England still won it. But it was always, in my mind, us or England. And when we played them, we looked really good. Like,
Yeah.
in my opinion, we were the better of the 2 teams. And that's
I
what
agree.
the objective look.
Yeah.
But I mean, the other 2 teams, got to give credit to both of them. They both showed a lot of fight. Honestly, like, if Wales would have taken care of business against Iran, we wouldn't have got out. But we did our job. In my mind, even going into this tournament, based on how young this team is, this was an experience building World Cup in
Yeah.
my mind.
Yeah.
Let's get these guys in the mix, know what it takes to get out of the group, and hopefully maybe win one, because next World Cup, it's going to be in our backyard. So in my mind, very successful group stage, not as easy as I would have liked, but
Right.
hopefully that helps build things up for the round of 16.
Yeah, man, I agree with a lot of what you just said. I think where I was kind of surprised was I didn't think we would defend that well.
Yeah.
And we were almost flawless defensively. We didn't concede an open play goal, which in 3 games that is highly impressive, especially considering England's in our group and all the attacking talent they have. They really didn't make Matt Turner work, which is how that's a testament to how good our back four was. I think in midfield, man, I thought that we were really good. I thought Adams was excellent. I thought McKennie was really good. I thought Musa, like, he's clearly young and he has a lot to learn, but he's just energy, relentless energy. He tracked back well, all that good stuff. So, I feel like where I thought we'd be better, which is up top, we weren't that good, right? And we'll talk about that a bit more, but yeah, man. Overall, I couldn't have asked too much more. One, just get out of the group. I was always a little nervous because I'm like, man, it's a World Cup. This is a young team. Anything can happen. We didn't really have a good, like, leading into the World Cup. It's not like we were firing on all cylinders. Tim Ream came into the side. He hadn't played for over a year, and he was getting fresh minutes, even though he's been playing really good in England. It's just he hasn't really played with these guys, for a while, and some of the guys he's never played with before, right?
Yeah.
And he came in, he's probably been our best player, right? So it's a lot of, I think there's way more positives to take away than some of the negatives we can talk about, right?
Well, yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head with kind of the one word that you used to describe the midfield, which was energy. And going in this World Cup with the age of these guys, like, that's what we were supposed to bring to the table. Is this energy? Is this constant, like, flying all over the place? And we saw it. I mean,
Right.
it's great to, like, meet expectations in that way. I think you're spot on about the midfield. I think Musa's done way better than I expected. I think Tyler Adams looks like he not only belongs in the Premier League, but belongs in a big 6 in the Premier
Yeah.
League.
Yeah.
And I think of all of those 3, the one that hasn't really shown out yet is Weston McKennie, which, if he's the low man on that 3, I am so happy, because he's a beast.
Yeah,
And
he is.
like, he's gonna, and granted, we might only have one more game, but he's going to show himself. He's going to show that he has that talent. So
Right.
I'm very impressed with the midfield too. It's just that attack, and again, defense too, but that attack just needs a little. It almost feels like I'm watching Chelsea again, where like you don't
Yeah.
have that central person who can put the ball into the net.
Right.
We'll talk about a bunch of things, but a lot of positives, and it's not only met my expectations, but kind of
Yeah. No, 100%. What players stood out like specifically? I know we've mentioned a lot of names, but like what's one player specifically that you felt was like, man, this was probably our best player in the group stages?
So I just said his name, but I'm gonna say it again. It's Tyler Adams, man.
Yeah.
And like I think that deep lying midfielder can really change a game and like
Yeah.
build an identity of a team. Granted, like I mean, I saw that firsthand when Conte joined Chelsea. Like if you have a guy who can be all over the place, help out the defense, progress the ball forward, it can help on both levels of the field. Like not many players can really have that kind of impact.
Right.
It's been everywhere. And he's looked confident. He doesn't look not his looks look like he's young.
Yeah.
Play, his confidence, his aura. He looks like he's been playing in the US men's national team for a decade.
100%.
He's just been everywhere. And again, to your point of bringing the energy, like he feels like the spark plug in our team right now.
Yeah.
And he's wearing the captain's armband, and he deserves every bit of it. So he's the one
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think he has a lot of pressure on him, right? From just he's so young, he's the leader of the team. He's the one speaking at the press conferences. He's the one who's speaking after games a lot of the times, and he has to kind of carry that weight while playing really well. And that shows how tough of a kid he is, in my opinion. And he plays like a tough kid. Like he doesn't back down from challenges. He's diving into every challenge. He's winning tackles, and he's not a huge kid. Like he's not tall. By what is he, 5? I'm gonna give him 5'9", 5'10".
That'd be my
maybe.
guess.
Like I don't think he's a big kid, but he's just winning everything. But for me, I think I gotta go with Tim Ream, man. I literally cannot think of one moment where he's like made a mistake, and that's maybe once, maybe a misplaced pass here or there, but like he has been so good. Like it's ridiculous. I think especially versus England, where there was tons of pressure initially, like there was that first like 10 minutes, 15 minutes of that game, I was like, oh man, this is about to be a long day. And him and the back line handled that so well. And then his passing out of the back, like it's ridiculously impressive. I'm like, wow, now I see why he's 35 years old, playing in England, playing for a team who's, in what, 8th place? Like that's nothing to sniff at, right? I'm like, I've known Tim Ream for a long time, but I was never a fan of his, but like he's just kind of, I guess he's just aging backwards because he looks so good right now. And I think he's like the spark plug for when we build out from the back, because I think we've built out from the back relatively well. We're not playing long balls and trying to win balls in the air and play like 90s football, right? We're like actually passing the ball out from the back, and him and Tyler Adams are like the catalyst for that, right? And I think he's got to get a lot of credit for that.
He's the rock, man. He's been the foundation of the team, very strong, reliable. To your point, hasn't really made mistakes. If he does, it's very minor. It's nothing like detrimental. But he's played, in my opinion, probably like the best soccer of his life. And granted, I haven't been watching him his whole life, but he's showing that he deserves to be the best center back on a team in the round of 16 in the World Cup.
Yeah, no, 100%. And we're going to talk about Berhalter, but let's look at the line. Let's look at USA's last game versus Iran, the lineup they played really quickly. I'm going to put this up. Here we go. This is the lineup the last lineup we faced. We've had 3 different lineups each game. There hasn't been any relative consistency. First game we started with Josh Sargent. I think Walker Zimmerman was in the side, right?
Yep.
The next game we played with Haji Wright. Then the next game Haji Wright came off, was Josh Sargent again. Then we brought in Cameron Carter-Vickers of Celtic, who I actually was very impressed by in the third game. And I wonder we'll talk about what we think Berhalter will do. But looking ahead into this game, obviously, I think the formation is going to stay relatively the same. We've done a bit of movement. At the second game, it was kind of like a 4-4-2, right? It wasn't a 4-3-3 that second game. It was McKennie was kind of out on the right-hand side. He wasn't really playing centrally, right? It was Haji Wright and Tim Way kind of playing as a front two. And then in the third game, we definitely went back to that 4-3-3 type of look. And I think I'm interested to see. I don't know what Berhalter is going to do there. I'm actually curious about the formation, but the players are relatively going to be the same. What would you do in this game? We see the formation here. What players would you maybe take out? What would you adjust? Because I think there are things we can do. But yeah, what would you go with, Andy?
So I think the first thing that he needs to figure out is who's going to be paired up with Ream in the back. And I think Carter-Vickers absolutely deserves it. Like, he played great against Iran.
Right.
Zimmerman had a mind-boggling mistake.
Yeah.
And I know, like, looking back on it, you think that, it was 3 games ago at this point, but that was just flat out dumb.
Yeah, 100%.
Bale was back against goal, didn't have it settled. He wasn't even close to being an actual threat when he stormed into him. And now you can't afford to do that.
Right.
Like, if that happens in this game, and granted, like, I know it's kind of somewhat recency bias, but you can't afford that. And Carter-Vickers played phenomenally. And if you saw his thighs, you would think that he plays in the NFL. Like, the dude is so strong.
Right.
To have him partner with Ream,
right,
man, that's a tough center back pairing to break through. But I think that's the first position to identify. What do you think?
I agree. I completely agree. So leading into the World Cup, I didn't watch every qualification game or World Cup qualifier, but I watched a few. I watched a good amount. And Walker Zimmerman was someone who was clearly going to come into the side. He was always going to be picked. He was playing a ton of games, right, in World Cup qualifying. And my biggest issue with him always was he is not good on the ball, right? Like, he genuinely, like, he's athletic. He has pace. He can head the ball. He can do a lot of the traditional things you want a center back to do, right? But his ability on the ball is so not up to par, for like a top, like this is top level football, right? He plays in the MLS. I'm not trying to disrespect him for that, but you can see the difference. Like, Carter-Vickers on the ball is so much better, right? Obviously we've played kind of different games, right? The England game, we were kind of playing backs against the wall. Well, the thought process is we're going to be playing backs against the wall. So let's bring in Zimmerman because we need someone who's really athletic, good in the air, can have recovery pace. And I think Berhalter said, okay, we need a goal versus Iran. We're going to be the people dominating the pace, dominating the ball. So I want a center back who's comfortable enough to pick passes out, all that good stuff. And I think Carter-Vickers did that brilliantly. And on top of that, he's still giving you the defensive work rate. He was strong. He cut out a lot of fires. There was a couple fast breaks that Iran had, right? It wasn't like they were bereft of, space, right? They had probably 3 or 4 opportunities where they broke, right? But our center backs covered it, cleared it. So I completely agree. I think the back four that we're seeing on the screen right now, obviously Matt Turner, he's a lock, but the back four, I would not change that. I think the fullbacks, right? Dest, Robinson, they just can't come out, right?
Cannot come out.
They're exponentially better than any options we have. We've seen DeAndre Edlin. He's not good enough, right? Shaq Moore, not good enough. Like, I'm not trying to disrespect the kid. I mean, he's doing it. And he's trying out there, but he's just not.
It's the World Cup.
He's not of the required level. You feel me? So Serginho, Des Robinson. Let's talk about them real quick. I think both of them have been really good. Like, especially for me, Robinson's been. He frustrates me, but he's also so talented because like you'll see him make a ridiculous run, and then like at the last second he'll that final touch just lets him down. And he overruns it. whereas Dest is just much better on the ball, but he doesn't have the athletic gifts
Yeah,
that
agreed.
Robinson has. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, and you can kind of see those gaps while you're watching. Like when
right.
Dest is in the final third,
Mm-hmm.
he is cutting in, he's
Mm-hmm.
looking to create, and that's where Robinson kind of falls off. But then if
Mm-hmm.
you look in the defensive third, that's where Robinson feels still incredibly comfortable, where
Mm-hmm.
Dest is a little shaky.
Mm-hmm.
Not to take away from their overall abilities, because
Oh yeah, yeah.
they're both playing out of their minds.
Yeah.
But I thought the person who stuck out to me is probably Robinson a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Because like
Mm-hmm.
I almost wasn't like Dest. I mean, he played for Ajax, he played for Barcelona, he's playing for Milan now. Like Robinson is playing on par with him
Yeah,
throughout.
yeah, yeah. 100%. Yeah. Yeah, I think the thing with Robinson is he's been really good. I don't want to downplay how well he's played.
Yeah,
He plays for a good team in England. He starts week in, week out. Like he's playing at the highest level, right? So let's make that very clear. This whole back four is playing really high level football, right?
yep.
Robinson, Fulham, Ream, Fulham. Like that's Fulham's left side right there, right? Carter Vickers plays for Celtic. They play in the Champions League, right? Dest was playing for Barcelona. Now he plays for AC. So that's Matt Turner's Arsenal's backup goalkeeper, right? So like these guys are playing and training with world-class players week in and week out. So or playing against world-class players. So, I'm not too worried, right? In midfield, I don't even think there's anything to talk about though, right? That's just there's
Perfect.
there's
Perfect.
there's no discussions here, right? Musa, Adam, anytime I remember the first game when we took out Musa first and then we took out McKennie
Yeah,
and the drop, that's when Wales,
100%.
began to, get some confidence, right? When it was those three, right? I think McKennie's struggling for fitness. I might be wrong about that, but I think
I think you might be right.
yeah, I think there was some talks about his health pre-World Cup and if he could go 90 every game, but when he leaves, like when we're bringing in Kellen Acosta, and it's just such a drop off. It's such a huge drop off. It's like I don't think there's really much to discuss on this midfield three.
All three playing really, really solid. All
Mm-hmm.
three, from the midfield down, those seven, unless there's a formation change, which I don't think there will be, those seven have to be
Yeah.
not penciled in the lineup, pinned in the lineup.
Right. And I think the only question mark is Carter Vickers, right?
It is.
I,
That's in my opinion in terms of pinned in there. But
yeah.
you are right. That would be the only one that I think if Berhalter wanted to
Yeah.
go with Zimmerman, he could.
Because I think he liked Zimmerman to a fault,
Yeah.
right? I think Zimmerman in his head probably was a big part of qualification and getting them to the World Cup, and he's an MLS kid and he's breaking through and all this stuff, whereas Carter Vickers is kind of coming. I mean, he's been in the fold before, but he's kind of coming out of the nowhere, right? Like this was his debut, like that was his first major game for the US.
It'll be
Whereas
interesting to see what he does because you're spot on, but at the same time, this Iran game was a must-win game.
right. And he
And
brought on Carter Vickers, yeah.
exactly. So
Right.
it'll be interesting. I don't think you can confidently say what he's going to do one way or another.
Right.
But he just had a win or go home game, and he went with Carter Vickers. I hope he sticks with it.
It's crazy when you think about it. Ream and Carter Vickers had never played together until that game. And then in the Wales game, Ream and Zimmerman had never played together before that game, which is crazy to think about. Like that's like the one place you want to be the most stable, the most cohesion, and it's not the case. We have 5 people watching, guys. Make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share this with one of your friends. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, people. Okay, so we talked about the defense, we talked about the midfield. This is where it gets
it does.
This is where it gets completely interesting.
Yeah, it does.
Christian Pulisic is injured, right? First of all, shout out to him, man. He put his absolute body on the line to get a goal. That is if let's hypothetically say we win this game against Netherlands, that goal will be so historical,
Yeah.
right? It'll just ring in history. It's not as dramatic as Landon Donovan's Algeria goal against Algeria, but it's equally as important, right?
This was the legacy goal.
Yeah, it's a legacy goal, 100%.
And granted, he's still young. His legacy's still in front of him. But
Mm-hmm.
he's been the golden child of the U.S.
Since
for
he was 16, right? Yeah.
and this was the game is on the line, World Cup's on the line. We need a goal.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to be the guy? And you think it's going to be Pulisic, but he realistically hasn't done a whole lot in those types of scenarios to say, yes, I'm the guy. I'm going to carry this team. And not only did he do it, but he did it by putting his body on the line and just said, like, I don't care if I get hurt. I don't care if I go crashing into a bunch of people. We need this goal. I'm going to be the guy to do it.
Yeah.
It's a legacy goal.
100%. So he said he's good to go, but I don't know how true that is, right? Yeah. I think they're keeping everything very quiet. Mm-hmm. They haven't really disseminated a lot of information. It's an abdominal contusion. I think that's what they're calling it, right? So it's obviously if he's even 60%, he's probably gonna go, right?
Yeah.
So let's just hypothetically,
one way or another. If he's good to go or if he's not good to go.
Yeah, if he's good to go, he's gonna play. If he's not good to go, it's probably gonna be Brendan Aronson. Mm-hmm. I want to see Gio Reyna. I don't know what's going on with that. I genuinely don't understand it. It's one of the conundrums of this World Cup. Like it's so weird. I don't know what the conversation is. There was talks about somebody accused Berhalter of making Reyna lie about an injury, and then that came out that wasn't true. It's like a lot of weird stuff going on with this Gio Reyna situation. But realistically, I would have started him after the first game. Like that would have been okay. We obviously don't have a player who's good enough to score goals. Let's just get our three best forward-thinking players on the pitch and let them figure it out, right?
Yes. Let me ask you this though: what are your thoughts on Weah?
I like Weah. I think that Weah he scored that first goal, so that's kind of bought him a lot of time.
Sure.
I think he passes the ball well. I think that he's a threat in behind because of his pace. Mm-hmm. I'm not his biggest fan, right? I think Gio Reyna is way better. I think he's a much better player.
Agreed.
But I think that Weah provides something that the others don't in terms of just being able to stretch the defense from a wide position where, Christian's kind of playing centrally, right? Like he's tucking in and Robinson's kind of providing that width, right? So Christian comes in and does his little thing inside. Like, he's not really playing out wide, right?
Right.
So it's Weah he's the one kind of from a forward line position who's providing width. I think he's linking up well with Serginho Dest. I think they have a good little understanding. I just don't see Reyna playing, right? If in a real world, if you're asking me who would I start, I would say I take off Sargent but Sargent played well last game. I don't want to disrespect him, but I just think Gio Reyna is a much like I wouldn't mind seeing like Weah go up top, kind of play like that in behind Rashford striker role, right? Just run in behind, try and stretch the defense type of thing, and then play Gio Reyna out right. Pulisic on the left, but I don't.
So that was going to be my next question because you kind of alluded to if you were drawing up the front three.
Yeah,
is that how you do it? Pulisic, Weah, Reyna?
I'm really torn because I do think Josh Sargent played well. I just don't know how effective he'll be against a Holland team, right?
Right.
I don't know. I don't think we're going to see a lot of the ball. I think that De Jong and whoever they play, right? I'm not too sure who they've literally switched up their midfield every game. So it could be De Jong and Koopmeiners. It could be De Jong, De Roon and Klaassen, or I don't know what they're going to do. So I'm torn. I really am torn. I genuinely don't know what is going to happen up top. If in a real world, I'd say I would just play Tim Weah out of position, play him as a center forward, let him run in behind. He has the most pace out of that front three. Bring in Gio Reyna as someone who can create, come inside, cut inside the same way Christian's doing. Let Des get some more width, all that good stuff. But it's just never happened. So it's kind of more of a dream than a reality. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I am actually very similar in that dream in terms of how I would draw it up.
Yeah.
But if I were doing it, I would put Rain out wide right. And instead of Weah or Sargent, I would run Brendan Aronson in the middle, because right now it kind of feels like, Sargent, again, he hasn't played bad, but he has not played as a good striker. Like, he just hasn't. You know what I mean? He's not getting a lot of shots off. He's not like a great target man. So, and I don't think Haji Wright has proven that either. So what I would love to see is if we had Pulisic, Brendan Aronson, and Reyna as our front three.
Right.
One, I love Aronson a lot. Like, I think he's so shifty on the ball. He's very creative. And if you had those three kind of weaving in and out of each other and to have that fluidity, like, I think those three could play any of those three positions. And I think they would do it well. So if you went to the Netherlands defense with three guys running all over the place, it'd be hard to mark. It'd be hard to know who's going to make a run, where they're going to make a run from. And I think even though you don't have a true number 9, I think the way you combat it is with three very creative, all over the attack.
Right. It's so difficult. Like I have a feeling that we might utilize the same formation we did against England, where we go kind of 4-4-2 or 4-2-2-2, however you want to, because it was McKennie kind of tucked to the right, and then we had Musa Adams, and then it was or was it Weah? Weah was it was Weah and Haji right up top, and then we had Pulisic out left, McKennie out right, and then you know what I mean. So I think he might do that again, where he plays a front two, right? I'm so torn. That front three is the biggest concern for this team, right? We've scored one goal, right? We scored 2 goals, excuse me. 2 goals in 3 games. We had chances, but we didn't have a lot of clear cut, we played we played really good football in that midfield. I think we probably won every midfield battle, for being real, right? I don't think there was one time I said, oh, we were overwhelmed in midfield by even Bellingham and Rice. I thought our midfield 3 were better, right?
Agreed.
So it's just the combination is going to be very tricky, right? And then, mind you, we'll talk about Holland here in a second. They play a back 3, a back 5, whatever you want to call it, right? And they have some top level defenders. If Aronson, I think, would just, in that type of game, if you play him through the middle, and I know your concept is, it's fluid, it's interchangeable. We haven't really been. Our front 3 hasn't been fluid, if that makes sense, right? So Christian's coming in, right? Weah's providing that width, and Sargent's kind of in that that right within the width of the box, right? He's not really making a lot of movement, right? And I don't know if we put Aronson up top. I just think that he just find himself, whoever goes in that middle, that's, if it was Weah or if it's Pulisic, I think they're going to find themselves wanting to drift out wide to avoid Van Dijk and avoid Ake and avoid Timber or De Ligt, whoever plays, right? So
that's where, and you just kind of drew up that perfect scenario of when Sargent is kind of putting himself in no man's land. That's what I feel like the downside is of having a true number 9 type of striker, whether it be Wright or Sargent, where they find themselves in a position where they're not really effective. Whereas when Pulisic comes in, and not if, but when he cuts in, because he does it all the time, if you have somebody who's very comfortable going out wide too, that's where I think you could not feel like you have to have somebody locked locked in as that number 9.
Yeah.
But I didn't see it happening. But
100%. Yeah. I also forgot Sargent's a question mark as well. I forgot to bring that up. I don't think he's also kind of 50-50 I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure that he's on the injury list as well. I can't remember. Was it I can't remember what the injury is. I think it's a foot. It's something with his leg. If I'm not mistaken. But yeah, he's also a question mark. And Jesus Ferreira, he was somebody who played a ton. He's kind of like very similar to Walker Zimmerman, where he was somebody who was a big part of the qualifying round and stages, and he was the one getting all the playing time. And he hasn't played at all in the World Cup. I don't know if Jesus Ferreira will get some time. I think this far into it, I'd be hesitant to do that, right? If you got him some group stage minutes and but to throw in Jesus Ferreira against the Netherlands, I just think
he'd be like a deer in headlights.
Yeah, I just think that's really unfair. That's an unfair ask. Maybe bring him off the bench, something like that. I'm still stunned at the Haji Wright thing. I don't understand that one. I don't know what the thought process was on bringing in Haji Wright. No shade. You're playing top level football though, so I have to call it. He's offered nothing. He's offered literally nothing. It's a weird one for me. I just can't believe he's getting so much playing time right now. But yeah, no, it's an interesting one. Let's talk about the Netherlands really quickly. This is the last team they deployed. And they've been all over the shop, right? Timber, he's come in for Delict the last couple of games. Daron came in for, I think it was Coop Miners, and before that, I think there was somebody else who played. I can't. Berghaus, Steven Berghaus. Klaasen's been in and out. Memphis started his first game in the third group stage, and it's been Jansen played once, and Steven Bergwijn played a couple games as well. So they've been chopping and changing the lineup. So honestly, we're not too sure. We're not 100% on who's going to play. I think Memphis and Gakpo will play, right? I don't know if you agree or disagree. I think Memphis has played well when he's come in. I think that might be the front two.
Yeah, I think the only thing that would change that would be if they drop him more as a attacking mid.
Right.
Sitting underneath two people, because I do think Memphis is incredibly creative on the ball.
Yeah.
So he was the one bringing the attack to Gakpo and Bergwijn.
Whoever, or if it's Bergwijn. They played Jansen, but I think that was – I don't think that's happening again.
It's honestly like looking at what they've done, it's a bold move, but a very strategic move to continuously make changes like this in the group stage if you feel confident you're going to win the group. Because we are trying to figure out, I'm sure just like Berhalter is, what the hell are they going to do?
Right.
Because it's hard. I mean, they've got so much talent where like they're not putting themselves in jeopardy by rotating so much. But I think the only like 100% staples here would be probably, and again, I think Memphis, but it's got to be Gakpo, it's got to be De Jong, Van Dijk and Ake, Nopper. I would say Blind and Dumfries too.
Yeah.
And Timber, Delict, you don't really know. Daroon, you don't really know. And then Klaassen and Memphis.
Yeah.
Question marks.
Yeah. And this team, again, this is a very good team. I think that they've been good, not great, right? The Senegal game, that was a close game. I know it ended up 2-0, but they didn't score to the 84th minute, right? It was right down to the wire. And again, Senegal doesn't have their best player, right? They don't have Mane. So that's an interesting thing. And then they drew against Ecuador, right? Which was like, okay, it's not a good result if you're I mean, Ecuador, I don't want to disrespect Ecuador. They're good. They're actually a good team, right? But it's just you just expect that Netherlands would win that game.
Right.
And then who was the third, I can't remember who the last opponent was. It's eluding me. It's eluding me. Qatar. Yeah, it was Qatar. They won 2-0. And honestly,
I mean, come on.
I don't know what to say to that, right? So I feel like Daroon will probably come out. I think that the threats that One, I think the threats is we're not going to get a lot of where they're strong, we're really weak, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna. I don't know who's gonna play up top. I imagine he's gonna want to play a number 9, right? I think if I'm a betting man, Sargent or Wright or Ferreira will be playing, right? I don't think we're gonna see Gio Reyna. I don't think we're gonna see. We'll see Aronson if Pulisic is hurt, right? But I just think he wants someone who can win balls in the air if we do need to knock it long, things like that, or at least have a chance, right? Because if you're playing Aronson in the middle, or they're just going to get pushed off the ball.
And I 100% agree. Like, I do think that is what's going to happen. And I think there's a very, very, very high chance that's going to happen. But, like, if I'm him, I'm looking at Van Dijk as the central heart of that defense, who my number 9 is going to be going up against. And I'm looking at my roster and thinking, like, no disrespect to my guys, but I don't have anyone who's even close to as physical as he is. Like, this is a world class, one of probably the top 3 defenders in the world. Like, why not just say, like, all right, whoever we put as a number 9, Van Dijk's putting in his back pocket. So why not make an adjustment? But again,
no.
I think that's what he'll do. I think he'll still play very true.
Right.
And maybe it works. I would love it if it did.
I agree. I think up top, Cody Gakpo's probably the biggest threat. I do love Memphis, but he's a different kind of player, right? He's more of a creative type of player, whereas Gakpo's very direct. He wants to run in behind. He wants to win balls. Like he's an athlete, right? Probably a future Manchester United player too, by the way. Let's keep that in mind. But I think he's the biggest threat.
Agreed.
He's the one who worries me that if let's just hypothetically say we have the ball and they get a counterattack, he's the one who could, cause Tim Ream and cause, the strikers we faced so far, right? Wales, there's no threat, right? There's no real threat. And then England, it's Harry Kane, right? But Harry Kane is also he's a box striker. He's not an athlete, right? He wants to he drops deep and he picks passes. He's very skillful, but he doesn't have a lick of pace, right?
And he wasn't 100%.
Exactly. And he wasn't 100%. And then Iran, Taremi, right? I don't, with all due respect, right? I'm not
bad, but not even close to Gakpo.
Yeah, right. It's just so this will be our biggest test, in my opinion. This will be our biggest. Gakpo will be the biggest threat we've seen so far. Through the middle. I'm interested to see how Ream and either Carter Vickers, whoever it is, handles it. I do, in my opinion, and we'll talk about score predictions at the end here, but I do think we're going to need to. I don't think we're going to keep a clean sheet. I'll just say that right out of the gate. I don't think we'll keep a clean sheet. That's just my fear. I think they will score a goal in the 90 minutes allotted to them, at least in the beginning, the full 90.
I could honestly see it going either way. Like, it's so hard.
Right.
Bitch saying that, but like it has looked.
No, 100%. I don't want to be negative. I'm just trying to be as real as I can. I just think that we've played really well defensively. Like how often is it that a team goes 4 straight games without conceding a goal in open play? Just a team, like a let's think about a club team, right? That plays together week in, week out. They eat together, they wake up together. Like it's rare you'll go 4 straight games without a goal being conceded, right?
Right.
Whereas this team, we're kind of a group that's some of them have played together. The midfield they've pretty much played together, right? They're tested, right? The back line is this is brand new. Like the back four we played with last game was like they had never played as a back four together, right? So I think it's asking a lot to get another clean sheet, But yeah, no, who knows? I do think there's places we can take advantage though. I love my guy, Mr. Blind. I love him. One of my favorite Manchester United players, over the past, decade, right? But he is old and he has no pace. 0 pace. If there is one game that Tim Weah could exploit a fullback, it is this game, right? Blinn does push high up the pitch though, because offensively he is an incredibly good passer. Like he is one of the best passers from the fullback position I've seen, over the past 5 to 7 years, right? Um, but he plays really high up the pitch, you know, and he's not great in transition. Like if the ball turns over, you can take advantage of him. And I think that's where you need to play a Weah, right? Or somebody with creativity and pace to make him uncomfortable, right?
Well, and
Dump,
just to add on to that, I think
yeah,
aside from just Weah, Dest is going to be a pain in his ass.
right.
Dest is going to be running circles around him. And I
Mm-hmm.
think you're spot on. Like, I think similar to like what happened against Iran, where
Right.
did the goal come from? The right
Mm-hmm.
side. Even though like
Mm-hmm.
McKinney played a beautiful ball and then Dest,
Yeah.
centered it, but Dest was on the attack a lot. And if
Mm-hmm.
him and Weah can have a very good, solid, like link up play,
Right.
yeah, he's a great center back. But Blend is giving him very little help with those two and the
Right.
pace that they bring and create.
Right. Yeah, I think the fullback matchups are going to be really interesting. Dumfries versus Robinson,
Yeah.
right? I think that's going to be a great battle. They're going to be seeing a lot of each other. And same thing, like I said, Blend is going to be seeing a lot of Dest, a lot of Tim Weah. Ake's been excellent. Let's be real. Ake, Van Dyke, they've been excellent this tournament so far. You got to give them their flowers.
Yep.
It's going to be a tough game, but I just think that they're not playing at the highest, like they're playing okay, but I
Mhm.
don't think they've played like this amazing brand of football where it's like, oh my God, they're just so frightening, like Brazil or something like like if it's Brazil, I'm like, okay, like I'm terrified. Like I'm like, there's no way we're winning this game. I might not even do a stream, right? But this team, I do think they're gettable, man. I really think, especially depending on who they play in the hole, what they do up top, like who they play in midfield. Is it gonna be? I don't think it's gonna be Daron. Will it be Berghaus? Will it be Coop Miners? Right? Who like I don't. There's a lot of questions, right? There's a lot of questions. We have a comment here. I think it's Tonga Niorenda says, I think it's possible to beat the Dutch, but we props going home. LOL. No, who knows, man? I don't know. Let's talk about that real quick. I'll go back to the team here. What do you think the score line is going to be, Andy?
I think it's going to be 1-1 after 90, 2-1 US after 120.
Wow. Okay.
And I
2.
think it's going to come from Reina.
Wow. Really?
I
That would be legendary.
I mean, he's hungry. He's a talented player. I think he feels disrespected, but not in a way that's demoralizing him. It's
Yeah.
also motivating him. And whether he comes on in the first 90 or if he comes on in extra time, if there even is an extra time, I think he's going to be out for blood, but in a very good, positive way. I
Yeah.
do think you're right. Like I can easily see Netherlands getting one. I can't
Yeah.
see Netherlands getting two. And I
Yeah.
think we're gonna squeak one by. So
Okay.
that's I'm going 1-1 after 90, 2-1 after 120.
Okay.
We're moving
Okay.
on, baby.
Okay. I'm gonna go 1-1. But I think it's gonna go to penalties, and I think we're gonna win in a penalty shootout.
Ooh.
I think that's what's gonna happen. I think there's gonna be a lot of there's not gonna be any pressure on
Yeah,
we're playing with house money.
we are.
No one's expecting us to do anything. The pressure's on them. You know what I
Yep.
mean? People have already convinced themselves that Netherlands are just gonna go through, right? Like there's a talent gap, but the talent gap isn't astronomical,
No.
right? I'll go back to their team, right? Clausen's older. He's playing at is he still playing at Ajax, or I can't remember where he's playing,
That's
right?
what that's what I
Um
but I
Blend is past his best. He's playing at Ajax still, right? Obviously, there's back three. I'm not gonna. That's great, right? But we have good players too. Like, okay, we have a Chelsea player right here, a Lille player right here. Leeds player, Juventus, Valencia, Celtic, AC Milan, Fulham, Arsenal. Like there's
Norwich for Sargent.
Norwich. You know, like
I
these
mean,
we're not. These aren't. It in my opinion, it would be like Spurs facing Fulham. That's like the
hate that.
that's like the talent gap, right? Like, should Spurs win that game? Yes. But would
Could
you
they
be
blow it?
absolutely stunned if Fulham won that game? I wouldn't be,
Nope. Nope,
right?
not at all.
Like I think that's I think people are thinking this is like Man City versus like Norwich,
Yeah.
right? No, that's not how drastic this gap is, right? It's they're better, but they're not that much better. They're not like we're not like they're not gonna have like 75% possession, right? Or just something ridiculous. And we're not like I don't think Adams, McKennie, and Musa fear that midfield,
No.
right? They just came up against Rice, Bellingham, and Mount, right? Or was it was and they succeeded, right?
Yep.
We've kept a clean sheet against England, who just put what was it,
Iran.
6 past Iran. Was it 4 past the Wales?
It was either 3 or 4.
3 or 4, right? So they're scoring goals. They just didn't score against us.
Yep.
So you know what I mean? It's I'm not too worried, man. I'm really excited for this matchup. I think it's gonna go ahead.
Here's the thing too, where Netherlands is beatable. Again, I don't want to totally disrespect the other teams in their group, but the other teams in their group were shit.
Yeah.
Like
Qatar.
2-0 against Qatar. So what?
Right.
Like 2-0 against Senegal. Don't get me wrong. And you said it. That score does not reflect how that game was played.
Right.
And Senegal is missing their guy. Now, granted, they still have a lot of other talent. They still have Koulibaly.
Yeah.
They still have Mendy.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, they haven't faced an attack better than our attack. And that's been the worst of our game. Like, Ismaili Sarr's on Senegal. Ecuador's got Enter Valencia, who's scored 3 goals in the World Cup. But, like, I couldn't tell you anyone on Qatar across the board. And our midfield's better than all – like, if you look at those 3 teams they've played – we are better in every facet of the game than all of those 3. So I think it's going to be a wake-up call, man. Like, I think they're going to get there. I don't think they're going to get the doors blown off of them.
Right.
I think it's going to be a, wow, maybe Netherlands. Like, that's why I loved the England game, even though it was 0-0 draw. Like, it was a tune-up game mid-group stage. These guys have not gotten that.
Right.
They beat a Mane-less Senegal, drew against a decent Ecuador team, and then won against Qatar. What have they done?
Right.
I think this is a wake-up call, man. I really do.
I do. I like this. This is an interesting comment. I don't think we talk about this. I actually think we match up decent with these boys, but I do think LVG is levels above Berhalter. And that is true. I think maybe where Berhalter struggled is adjustments. I think that LVG is going to make adjustments as he sees this game progress. And will Berhalter be able to match up or respond to the adjustments that this man, one of the greatest managers of his era? Let's just be real. He's won everything, literally won everything, except for a World Cup. So like it will be interesting to see how Berhalter adjusts, because I think that again against Wales, he didn't make great adjustments. I don't think against Iran, especially in the last 15, 20 minutes, I didn't like the idea of bringing on Shaq Moore. I didn't like the idea of bringing on Haji, right? I think that's when we started looking a little bit shaky, right? So he has to make better adjustments, right? I think he has to play Tim Reyna or Gio Reyna, excuse me. I think Aronson has to get some time no matter how it happens, right? I just think he has to figure out ways to counteract. Or what does he do in midfield, right? If we need to take off Musa, right? Where does he go? I don't want to see Kellen Acosta anymore, to be quite frank.
Neither do I.
I don't.
That's a good comment, though. And I think that's like, it almost is the opposite approach of like, the player's mindset going into this game is it's house money. There's no pressure. Like, let's just go get it. Whereas like, if you look at the two managers managing against each other, I think Berhalter would be like, I think he is like terrified to go up against Van Gaal, but I think he's just like, all right, yeah, we'll get this. Like, I just feel like there's almost like a big brother, little brother when you just
Yeah. I think there's not a lot of pressure on Berhalter at this point.
no.
Like the only pressure he had was to get out of the group, and he did that. He's probably gonna be the next manager going into our Gold Cup and the next big competitions, right? So I think he's kind of playing with house money. LVG, honestly, LVG, there's also no pressure on him. I think this is kind of just fun for him, you know. Obviously, he wants to win a World Cup. I don't want to downplay his, but if they lose, right, it's gonna be okay, it'll blow by. It's not gonna affect his historical CV.
And that's what kind of scares me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he's not going into this as like he's just like, all right, let's just go in and take care of business, but not in like an arrogant way, just in like I also have no
let's
pressure.
just do it. Let's just do this. Yeah, no. It's an interesting one. But guys, get your thoughts in the comments, man. Who do you think is gonna win? Andy's predicting a 2-1 extra or an extra time goal, 2-1 win for the US. I'm predicting a 1-1 draw, but we're gonna get through on penalties. And that's I think we're gonna get through. I don't know. I mean, I'm predicting, right? Who knows what's gonna happen? We could keep a clean sheet. We could win 1-0 again. Like I just think that we've played out of 6 halves of football. I think we've played well in like 5, honestly.
Yep.
So and that's not even exact. Like I don't think I'm being inflammatory when I say that. I think the only bad half we've really had was against the second half against Wales, right?
Yep, exactly.
So I'm feeling confident. My guy Tonga Niarenda says 2-1 Way and Gio scoring. I like it. If Gio comes on, man, and scores, I will lose my shit. I will be so excited. Because he's one of my favorite players, man. And the fact that he's not playing is really frustrating me. But it's all good. It's all good, guys. We appreciate it. Hey, Andy, this was great as always, man. I appreciate this. We got about an hour of great content for you guys, man. We broke down the game. We talked about the US lineup. We talked about Netherlands lineup. We talked about the group stage matches, man. Make sure on Saturday I will be doing a watch along for this game, so make sure to tune into that. Should be a great time as well. Hopefully I can try and find a guest to make this a little more fun, but if not, I will be screaming in this room by myself. I do not care. You know what I mean? So guys, yeah, make sure to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Appreciate the love, and we will talk to you guys very, very soon. Okay? Deuces.